What's up, guys? Welcome to Let's Talk About It.
Yeah, what a good intro. That sounded good.
Like the first one that's ever been good.
That sounded really good.
So much hate.
I appreciate that. No, that was really good.
Be encouraging for once in your life.
All right. Well, we are here tonight on Let's Talk About It to talk about something that happens pretty often at this time of year, and that is graduation. So we're talking about graduation, and kind of, I guess, to get started, let's just start off with the one word thing or phrase. So when you think about graduation, what one word or one phrase or something comes to mind for you? Who wants to start us?
I'll start. Excitement.
Oh, okay. Excitement. Not what I was expecting from Aiden. So I appreciate that.
Celebration.
Celebration. Good.
Not present.
Not present. What does that mean?
That's 2 words.
I said phrase. I said one word
Yeah,
or phrase.
he's a one-word phrase.
What does that mean, though, to you? Not present.
Like, don't go.
Why would you not? Okay, why would you not go?
Fishing tournament.
Oh, but you don't actually have a fishing tournament because it's all virtual.
Wow, really? Way to just rub it in that we don't have a graduation.
No, I was talking about when you have your fishing tournament, it's virtual.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
not a physical in-person one right there. All right, so when we think about, okay, so you guys used positive words. So when you think about it, kind of why graduation? I think that's going to be the biggest question we kind of wrestle with at any stage of the game. Now, Dr. O, you have a couple of letters in front of your other letter, and that's doctor, which means you've gotten a lot of degrees. But there's something we need to know about you before we really get going, especially for the audience right here. And what's that we need to know about you?
I'm guessing you're referring to the fact that I have not attended a single graduation since 8th grade.
Yep. That's pretty incredible, right? So, well, how many different degrees do you have then? You have your high school.
I have a high school, bachelor's, and PhD.
And PhD. Okay.
Because that's 3.
Well, and that's good. Yeah.
Oh, for 3.
For 3. Well, I was going to say, like, my highest degree is not close to a PhD, but I have my high school, my bachelor's, and my master's in divinity. So there's 3, and so it's interesting. I've been to all 3 of those graduations. It'll be interesting. Yeah, 3 for 3. I don't know if winning or losing. We'll talk about that, I guess, if you make it to it.
We wouldn't know about winning.
But like, let's think about it, right? So well, I'm interested. This is a good starting point. Dr. O, why did you not go to any of your graduations?
Well, the reason is different for each one. The first one, high school, I had kind of not really applied myself very much in high school. And so I think there was a part of me that was a little bit ashamed of kind of burying talents and not doing that. And then I had also kind of overhyped the fact that I was going to join the military. And then I eventually kind of came to a point where I realized I was joining this for the wrong reasons. And ended up backing out and not, pretty last minute, not joining the military because I knew it really wasn't what I should be doing. And so there was a lot of probably internal shame there, and I didn't want to go. I thought my friends would look down on me possibly, and so I just didn't show up for that. For the bachelor's, I went to because I was a somewhat substandard student in high school. I was 1 for 10 in applying to colleges. And so the one I got into was a very large university that pretty much takes everybody. And, I made it through, and then I was just done. I didn't want to go to a massive 1,000, 2,000 plus celebration for just my school. All my friends were thankfully I had started going to the Campus Christian Center there on campus and met some friends, and none of them were really be there with me at that time. I didn't want my family to have to travel from Michigan to Arizona. And so I was like, well, I just want to go and move on.
Yeah.
When it came to the PhD, with the PhD, it's a little unique in the sciences. You are done when you're done. And so when you're finished all your research, there's not much classes, not very few classes, but it's mostly research. And so once you've completed your research to your research advisor's satisfaction, you're just done. And so you have to wait for the next ceremony to be held before you attend it. And so I was to the point where it was July when I graduated.
Wow. Okay.
I started working in August, and the thought of going and graduating to summer. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Although if I'd have known I could have worn that cool hat, like, I might have done it. But
That's awesome. And that's true. At different steps, you get like cooler things, right? So
Yeah.
the doctorate is definitely you get the cooler hat. That's when you finally get to throw away the mortarboard. So, yeah, but at least with the master's degree, you get the cool hood is what they call it. And you get the sleeves, or I like to call them like the snack holes, like so you can carry snacks with you.
Snack holes.
Yeah, so like you'll see it like Bodie has one. I'm actually
they
toying whether or
actually
not I'm
carry
going to wear one.
snacks?
Well, it depends on who you are.
sometimes they do.
yeah. But like the master's is where you get that because like a college degree is the same exact robe as a high school degree. Not really big of a difference there. So here's the question though: if let's say if you would have finished up in April, would you have gone in May? You think as for your doctoral degree?
I might have. I mean, part of all of those graduations too is I think very literally, and I was like, "What is the purpose of this?"
Oh, good.
I got the piece of paper that I need to go to the next step. So, what is the purpose of this? What I wasn't thinking of was the celebration with friends, or the fact that maybe my family wants to come and celebrate.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't even give that a second thought.
Well, and so what's now? So in that moment, you were thinking very literally. What's now brought you to that point that you're thinking more of the? Oh, I wasn't thinking about this. I wasn't. What are some of the experiences that brought you to some of those thoughts?
Well, I think the 13 graduations I've been to at Concordia made me realize, wow, this is actually kind of cool, and especially when the speakers are thinking of others as they give their speeches, especially the students. I think that's very meaningful.
No pressure, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And
What do you mean by that? Give it a little.
He's giving you hints here.
Yeah, I was like, I think I need a little guidance on this now.
well, actually, I was thinking more of the students, salutatory and valedictorian.
sure.
So
Yeah,
when they're
yeah.
addressing their class,
Yeah.
because they know them all.
Good. Yeah.
Right.
Because no. I was gonna say no. We'll talk about this. Yeah.
Because I think that could go a couple different directions. I mean, it can get in very internal, like this is about me, or
Yes.
it can be this is about us. And so I think when it's about us, then it goes very well. And I think obviously when the other speakers that are there are known to the students, it also becomes a very meaningful experience. And just the fact that they're together and they do their little silly handshakes and everything.
Yeah.
I can see them having a good time.
yeah, when they walk in and things like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when you're bringing up different components of graduations and things like that, I'll kind of walk through my graduation experiences too. And really the speaker piece is a little interesting too. Well, I mean, you can share your graduation experience. Would you like to go first?
It was 15 seconds and he wore a glove.
Well, have you been to like Jake's graduations or?
Yeah, I went to those.
Okay. So what's your experience with Jake's graduations?
So
Jake is Clayton's older brother.
yeah. So at Sam, it was pretty cool. It was like in their like arena for like basketball and stuff. It was crazy. Like I never really thought of like college. I knew they were big, but like I didn't think they were that big of like. And it was
Yeah.
just for like the business and like science like departments or whatever. So that wasn't like all the kids. I think that's what's really like was crazy is like the amount of people that actually like were graduating.
Nice. Andy, how about you? Have you been to some graduations?
I think the biggest one I went to was it was one of the Psi schools. It was for some of my cousins. They were graduating a couple of years ago, and that was probably one of the biggest graduations I've been to. They filled up like an entire like football stadium. It was insane. Like there was several thousand people graduating, and I was like, geez, like. And then I look at our grade, and I'm like, well, we kind of
We
Like,
going to church.
that's a quick graduation, like an hour graduation, whereas like that graduation was like several hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, but I also had the 8th grade graduation, which was literally nothing because I had 15 people in my class, so it took no time.
So when I think about the graduations that I've been to, so like I have 2 older siblings. So I remember going to Tom's high school graduation, Michelle's high school graduation. I got to go to my own graduation. Then my cousin graduated right after me. We all lived in the same hometown. My little brother graduated in the same year the year after I graduated from college, and then my graduation from college, my sister's graduation from college at Auburn. I actually went to each year. I was that nerd, and I do think that is a nerdy thing, but I went to my college's graduations every year leading into it. So freshman, sophomore, junior year, because I was like, this is kind of fascinating. This is really interesting to me. And then Concordia's. I've actually watched the last 3 years of Concordia's live. I've never been there in person because trying to respect like families and rooms like that. And it's interesting every step of the way, just what everybody does a little different. So like my high school graduation was similar to, I guess, the Klein schools. I mean, it wasn't the stadium size of NRG because there's not really stadiums the size of NRG in middle Georgia. But my brother and sister graduated in like literally the rodeo arena. So that's where they were. And so we were up in the like sides, the graduates were down on the floor. My graduation moved somewhere else on the fairgrounds. But it was the same kind of thing. When my little brother graduated, we were actually in the overflow room because there wasn't enough. So we were literally in a cattle barn, like watching on a screen to be able to do this. But it was interesting that every step of the along the way, everybody did a little different. So like I remember like for my high school graduations, you had the valedictorian. You always have the students, the valedictorian, the salutatorian. Third in class got to do something. Fourth in class got to do something like that. Then you had it was always the what do you call him? Superintendent of schools. And here's the thing: I went to a lot of graduations for that county. It was the exact same speech every single year to every single school. So I was like, okay. By the time it was mine, I'd heard it 3 times. By the time my brother, it was 1,000,000 times. College was interesting. College was actually, there was a professor that was selected at each graduation to do the next year's graduation speech. So it was really special. You got to hear from one of your own teachers, and they were all so super unique, and it was just awesome. I still remember who did it. I don't necessarily remember what they said, which is kind of typical of speeches too. And then Concordia is interesting too, because you still have the valedictorian, salutatorian, other people that played certain roles, like the chaplain, I believe, or the president of the student body does a couple of things too. So it's just really neat to kind of see all the different things behind it. So, but here's the question, right? Why graduation? Why do we do graduations? Why do we have them? Why don't we just see the practical side of it and say, you have the paper, you've done the classwork, you're done. Congrats, go get a job.
You're gonna have to tell me because I don't see why.
Yeah, we don't know.
All right, you're gonna have to help us out then out there in the chat. So again, why do we do graduations? Where is the purpose or the worth or the value in a graduation?
I think it's more of like a like we said earlier, it's a celebration and to be excited and stuff like that. But it's like a place where we can all do that, so we're not like splitting up into different stuff, so we can all be in one place together for one last time, before we depart ways, and it's brings more meaning behind it because there's that feeling of togetherness one last time before we all go on our separate ways, I guess.
What I heard a lot from students during the online school that we've been through the last month or two or whatever it was, is that last class just felt like no closure. And so this would also contribute to that closure that maybe, okay, this chapter is now done. We've all kind of come together and acknowledged that. And now we're ready to take on the next challenge.
Yeah. No, I really like that piece, like the closure, and it's really interesting to me throughout the years, especially at my college. I really appreciated my college, my time there, but it's a liberal arts college, and so very academic type people and the whole mentality. So not necessarily what you get at a big state school and the kind of the goal of certain things like that. But what I appreciated there was kind of the tradition piece of it. Because you mentioned the closure, they also actually had the opening. So every year, the school year began officially with the freshman year convocation. And so but I remember like you didn't know what you were doing. You just knew you were showing up. Freshman orientation was starting. You were supposed to get in a line out by the bell tower, and you were going to go to freshman convocation, whatever that meant. I thought it was going to be like an assembly and somebody was going to talk to us, but we're all marching in a line. And when we do, all of a sudden I was like, holy cow, I didn't know I was going to Hogwarts because all of my professors were wearing their doctoral stuff and their robes, and they all looked like Hogwarts teachers, honestly, like just so many different characters and things like that. And you're walking through the middle of them. The main guy is leading you carrying a mace and having gloves, and there's a banner that follows him and things like that. And you go in and you place, and they tell you to go in, and the people up front are all wearing their robes and everything, and they kind of started, you know. And then you had the finishing, of course. We had honors day commencements, and then we had the actual commencement ceremony too. It was just this level of tradition carrying on something, and a level of meaning really that got brought to a lot of it. And it was actually carried on too at seminary. So they're really great at tradition at seminary too. Imagineer that. And you had the start of the school year, the opening chapel. The LCMS president was typically there, and then you have things like call day, where you have the whole faculty in pastoral robes and stoles walking through, as well as all the district presidents. And then you also have commencement, where it's the academic, you know. And so it's just kind of crazy, but it is the sense of a start and a sense of a finish and a completion and a closing of a chapter that I always really appreciated along the way. Yeah. So Jeremy said closure. So Corey said celebrating the accomplishment. Corey said closure is a really good point. Jeremy said work 12 years. Any kind of closure is nice. And there's that sense of working towards something that graduation all of a sudden kind of helps you do that. And what do you feel like about graduation ceremonies help to bring that closure? What are certain things for you that you see?
I guess all the speeches all kind of like pile onto it.
I think for me, like the throwing the caps up in the air is kind of like, it's kind of cool because everybody gets to do it at one time. And I think that's what I think would be one thing that I really want to do.
So fun fact. Well, Doctor, how many 13 graduations? How many of those have you seen the hats thrown up in the air?
Not as all one group, but usually a lot of times they'll go outside and do it.
Okay.
You know,
In all my graduations, I've never. Yeah, that's
How boring.
It's a movies thing.
Al.
It's something that happens in Hollywood.
well, in West Point and the
West
Naval
Point,
Academy,
okay.
that's
a
big tradition there.
Yeah. So there's traditions. Then so you need to go to the Naval Academy.
Yeah,
and make sure you
exactly.
graduate
Yeah.
there.
That's easy to
You
get.
hear that, Mom?
Naval Academy.
I would go Air Force Academy. I would recommend Air Force Academy too. That's a good one. Yeah, one last goodbye. And it seems like those speeches kind of help you to do that. And again, here's the thing. I've been to plenty of graduations. I can tell you who spoke at each of them. I can't tell you a lick of what they said. But I can also tell you it was meaningful. Like whatever it was in that moment. Actually, I take that back. My high school valedictorian, I know he's not watching, but Joseph Raimondo, I'm sure he's a doctor now. I haven't been following him lately. But I remember his speech really clearly too, because he's a good friend of mine. I think that's a really big piece when you know the person and things like that. I know who the salutatorian was. I don't remember what they said, but I remember what Joe said. And then like going from there, each year, again, I remember who spoke, and I remember it being meaningful and impactful in the moment, but it wasn't necessarily memorable too. But I also think like YouTube, there was that guy. Did you see the King's Academy guy? The valedictorian?
I believe I did. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
incredible. Have y'all seen this?
No.
Google it. Find it. This dude, I'm sitting here. Honestly, I was like, can we hire him for student ministry right now? Can we get this guy working right away? He doesn't need to go to college. Because the guy, I mean, you got to watch it. It's 8 minutes maybe. King's Academy valedictorian speech. It might be called like best valedictorian speech you've ever seen. Awesome. Go watch it. But there's just kind of that's what this is about. You know what I mean? Of making you rethink life in this moment. Because that's the thing. Every single one of these is a transition. It's a transition point. Something's happening after graduation. It might not be what you planned, but something is happening. And so there's this transition point and things like that. And so Jeremy kind of said one last goodbye, and that kind of helps with that too. I mean, anything else come to mind though when you think about graduations or why we do them or what you appreciate about them? Or any questions about them?
Why does everybody have to wear a robe? I don't get it. Why can't we just be all
Why are
dressed
they
up
robes?
nice?
So I would say it goes. You would probably know better. I am totally guessing this is not validated at all, but I would guess it goes back to our European roots in the academic
Is
system.
it a tradition?
So it would be a tradition that goes back to like especially the academy in England, because even at certain schools in England right now, they're wearing robes as they go to school. That's not just Harry Potter. Like that is actually a real thing.
That's Harry Potter.
Yeah. So I had a friend like they studied
It's
in
in the
Cambridge.
movies, Lee.
Yeah, exactly. Like throwing the hats in the air. Yeah. And, but like, I had a friend who studied at Cambridge for a year. That was one of the exchange programs at seminary. And it was funny when you saw pictures of him because he was wearing robes. I was like, oh, what was that about? He's like, that's how you wore it to class. That's what you did. I was like, no kidding. So I feel like it goes back to those roots.
I think it's also to single you out. You are the people that are getting celebrated. And if you are dressed like everyone else, then that doesn't set you apart.
That's good.
And show that you are a class that have come through something together and now you're finishing it together. Yeah. So I think it's an acknowledgement of your achievement and, the people that are being celebrated for that day.
Yeah. And then also too, I mean, for faculty, as you get more degrees, your outfit changes, So again, like you have your high school, you have your college, which is really just like whatever your college chooses for tassel colors, and like maybe the robe color is interesting, but most of the time they're always black. But then once you go and get higher, like you'll notice the hoods. And sometimes actually, is this true? You would know this better than I would for high school teachers. Because I know some people that just graduated from college, they didn't get master's degrees, but they'll have hoods. Can you just get plain ones for graduating?
I don't know where the hoods come from. I don't know what that is.
Okay, because I know that I've seen some high school graduations where I knew these
thing.
people.
Oh my gosh.
And so the hoods too, like I know that's a piece, but then when you doctoral, the robes are very fancy and resembles the college most of the time. Correct?
Yeah, they have like some extra bling on them. There's like, I think felt strips or something.
Yeah,
on
felt strips means there's a doctorate.
Yeah, it's rather strange what they do.
And then
to the robes.
The master's is just that little weird.
Yeah, you have the
sleeve.
little dangling
The
thing.
snack holder.
Snack
Sleeve.
Once again, things that kind of get to me because like, what is the function of that?
Yeah, there isn't. Yeah, exactly.
Hold your Funyuns.
Yeah, I would not choose Funyuns. But
Why not?
I guess back to that guy's speech though, the King's Academy speech. I think what that guy really captured was what this is all about.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that this is not about learning to serve yourself and just memorize all you can because that's going to make you something. The fact is you're not going to remember most of what you learned through all those years, but it's those, if you learn to serve one another and think of others first rather than yourself, then that lays the groundwork for a very successful pathway.
Yeah, for sure.
You heard it here first.
So what would you say, right? So when you think about it, right, what would you hope, and this may or may not be motivation, it may or may not ought to be written, but what would you hope graduates take away from a graduation, especially in the high school transition? Like, what do you hope people hear on those days?
I think the biggest thing that's probably not being heard as well is you are who you are. And as long as you're putting your best foot forward and doing the best that you can do at every stage of life, then you are a success. This is not a game of comparison. This person did that. This person did this. It is using the gifts that God has given you to the absolute best you can. If that means you don't go to college, that means you don't go to college. There are plenty of other ways to make a living than just going to college. And in fact, for a lot of people, going to college is a mistake. And so I think it's very easy, and I certainly fell into that trap, which is why I didn't attend high school graduation. I was comparing myself to other people and realizing that my abilities weren't or my effort wasn't there. And so I think if people can walk away thinking, my best is good enough, and I'm going to think of others first before myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's interesting you bring the comparison thing because we have a comment here that mentioned you have the chords and the sashes in the honor society, different levels of cum laude, magna cum laude, summa cum laude, things like that. And so actually, and they mentioned at the bachelor's level, I know it's also at the high school level, and confession here too. I don't think I'll ever hang up a picture of me graduating high school in my house or anywhere, because I was that absolute nerd that was so about comparing myself. So I got as many chords as I possibly could and as many little metal things. And no offense to anybody that does this, because this was me, okay? And I had them all over, and I was like so happy. And some piece of me had said I succeeded because I had so many cords and tassels and whatnot. And I was so thrilled 4 years later at Birmingham Southern, where there were very few of those, if any, on anybody. Because I was like, this is more what it's about. We're all in this together. We're all graduating. We're all going into the real world. It doesn't matter. And that's the thing is summa cum laude. You know what? I appreciate that for at least at Birmingham Southern for summa cum laude. You have to stand for anybody that got that. That's someone that got a 3.9 or higher. And in college, you can't go higher than a 4.0. So just so you know.
Least smart.
So your world's not crazy. No. I'm saying because I think it's ridiculous that the high school GPA goes above a 4.0 right now.
Oh, mine doesn't. Mine's lucky to go over 3.
So, but if you work your butt off and get higher than 3.9 in college, I'll stand for you. You better
yeah.
when you
I
get the
won't.
degree. That's awesome.
Certainly, they can still be acknowledged. It's we're not acknowledging people's accomplishments.
Exactly.
We're just not saying, oh, well, that person did that and I didn't do that, so I'm no good.
Exactly, because I feel like the same thing can be said for valedictorian speeches, salutatorian. For the people that worked really hard, like if you got third place, you're doing really good, man, or girl, whatever. You know what I mean? So like you're doing a really great job. So I mean, I like what you bring out though in that comparison piece, because I think that does happen a whole lot. Or so and so's going to my dream school and I didn't make it in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. The huge thing about going to the dream school.
Yep.
Which is interesting. A thought just came to my mind, and I have to be careful how I say this, but there was a former student of mine who went to a very prestigious university, and is doing well there, and she's a close friend of the family. And one day we were having breakfast, my daughter and her, and her biggest piece of advice was, all that stuff that you think is really important really isn't important.
Yep.
And I thought, that's a great piece of advice.
Right.
All this focus on stuff that just once it's over, it's over.
That's what I remember. It was either my sophomore or my junior year of college. We had a friend of ours. I had a pretty close friend group. Like there was 5 of us that hung out all the time. And there was a guy, they were all in leadership studies. I wasn't, because I saw it as, if I want to take the leadership class, I'll take the leadership class, but I'm not going to go just so I get this extra leadership studies designation or something for my degree. Like I'll take it if I want to, I won't if I want. So I didn't. But they had made a friend over there that had done this, and he was brilliant. And he made a ton of great grades, had scaled all the way to the top, and just did a lot of things. But there at the end, like there in the spring, we saw him because we studied in the same place. But that's the only reason we knew him. And so by the end of it, it was really interesting to hear him reflect. And basically, especially toward those last couple of months of college for him, he looked at us and was basically like, thank you guys for talking to me. And we're like, what? He's like, I didn't really have friends this whole time because all I did was focus on getting the absolute best grade ever. And I'm realizing I wasted so much of my time here chasing down the wrong thing. So it's a really interesting reflection from somebody else doing the same thing. Yeah. No, so thanks for bringing that out.
So with everything that's happening right now with our whole online stuff, what do you think is the most important piece to remember that about graduation? Like how can we keep from comparing to others if we're not having a graduation in person?
So, I mean, and I'll qualify this by saying you're probably going to have a graduation in person, right? So it might not happen at the same time. I think this is what I've come to see, at least for high school graduation. A lot of times, it was. This is going to sound weird. Your family needs your graduation more than you do sometimes. So that's just a big piece of it. I mean, because your parents have watched you, they've grown you, they've done a great job with you, and so there's some people that are like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And I'm kind of like, please do it for your parents, because this is a big life transition for them, and it doesn't seem big for you because you're like, yeah, I'm going to college, I'm living the dream. I'm not going to be in my parents' house anymore and things like that. But really and truly, they know what's about to come. You're about to really find your independence. And yes, they will still be there, but it will not be the same. And it's hard for you to see that when you're in high school. But after you've gone through it, you totally know what's coming. And so for me, like, try and be pretty positive about it. But anything you get is wonderful, but let your parents celebrate you.
Yeah, it's almost like a thank you for the investment.
Yeah, it really is. Like that's definitely a big piece. I don't know. But what do you think? What's advice for you for this?
Well, I would wholeheartedly agree with what you just said. I mean, there's always going to be that danger of comparison. It happens all the way into adulthood. It's very easy to get consumed with that. So that's a battle you're going to fight your entire life. But certainly, whatever form of graduation happens, you participate, you do your best with that. You still have your friends. Your friends don't only exist online, and this will end. And you'll still have those connections. And so that's independent of the ceremony itself and whether it goes exactly as it normally would. You certainly now have a unique place in history.
No doubt.
Your class. And so that's something you can be the old guy talking about someday.
And what would be your advice for the seniors that didn't get to finish their last couple of months in high school?
Yeah, it's a disappointment. I mean, there's no way to somehow get that back. I mean, that's one of those things where there is no next year. So that is a disappointment that has come your way, and it won't be the last one that you experience in your life. And so this is a chance to look at this and find a way to make this a positive thing, to emphasize the positive, to form some connections. Hard to actually give you a specific concrete example, but I can relate to teaching. I've learned a lot in these last couple of months about the importance of that togetherness and being in the same, because I can communicate the material online just as well as I can in the classroom, but that interaction is not the same. And so those personal connections, you already had made them. And now after 2 months without them, you maybe can appreciate their value a little more. And so going forward, you think about those people that maybe, you didn't connect with as well, or it's not too late, right? You can still interact with them. And the people that you are well connected with, that doesn't have to end. And in fact, you can maybe mend some relationships, maybe make some relationships a little stronger, because now you realize maybe a little more how important those relationships are.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the thing is it feels, I can say this. I can only imagine how it feels. I cannot understand how it feels. I don't know what I would have been like if I didn't have those last 2 months of school. I think those last 2 months of school, every step of the way, were far more about the social side of things than they ever were about the academic piece necessarily. So it's the hard part that you're missing out on. But I think, to Dr. O's point, it doesn't mean the opportunity's gone. So make the most of what opportunities you do have, that you still have. And the same thing is that the whole time is about those relationships. It wasn't about a lot of the other stuff too. So, yeah, but I mean, again, you'll be telling your grandkids about this, describing it like it's a scene out of I Am Legend, I'm sure. But, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, you're a very unique place. And I know a lot of your parents have posted online. Y'all came into this world at a very unique place, right around 9/11. And so, it's kind of crazy to see how crazy the world changes every step along the way, and what it throws at you. But it's a matter of looking at it saying, what am I going to do with it? It is what it is. What am I going to do with it? All right, so we got some comments here in the chat. Don't let it taint all the good memories you've had along the way. Definitely. And that's what graduation is going to be, especially hearing from your peers, is going to be being able to hear from them about memories and things like that. And this entire situation can make you stronger. It's up to each and every one of you to make the best of what happens in your life. Look for God in everything you encounter and choose joy and seek Him. So that's some advice from some of our parents that are watching tonight too.
Any other final comments before we head out for today?
I think the biggest thing is appreciate your families. Appreciate your parents. Let them celebrate you. Let them celebrate the journey that they've been on with you, because just as much as your journey changes, theirs is about to change. with you. And so allow them to do that, allow them to celebrate you. And then also allow other people to celebrate you and to help you kind of close the chapter on this one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I guess going forward, this is a new start, right? After this is all over, whether you go on to a job or a trade school or college, whatever's happened previous to this, right? This is your chance for a new start. So take advantage of that and remember those connections that you made and keep those relationships going as best you can. But keep moving forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us for Let's Talk About It tonight, talking about graduation. You can find these. We finally got the MP3s up. The most recent ones, I don't have the MP3s for them yet, but we'll be getting those loaded into YouTube in the next week. So you can find all of these past episodes about Let's Talk About It on our YouTube channel, which you can find in the link of our bio of our Instagram page at TK Career Students. Joining us here on Thursday nights at 8:30. We'll be live on YouTube tomorrow for some Coffee Talk Bible study. So continuing that conversation in the book of Acts. It's been really exciting for us. Thank you so much for your contribution tonight. Dr. O, thanks for being with us tonight. And thanks for the conversation here on Let's Talk About It.